There are watch books you can buy in 2 clicks. And then there are watch books you hear about, the ones that feel like they exist, half in print and half in rumor, mostly in the libraries of people who casually say things like, "Oh yes, I have that book somewhere," and then they never elaborate. Well, Hybris Mechanica of Jaeger-LeCoultre is that kind of watch book. One of the most difficult book to find for me. It took me such a long time to locate one, and I'm very happy to have one. Whether the book is rare, out of print, or boutique only, or living in someone's safe, the idea of Hybris Mechanica is very real. Jaeger-LeCoultre's no apologies playground for grand complications. In this book, Jaeger-LeCoultre decided to show the Hybris Mechanica line, or the program, through watches themselves. If Hybris Mechanica had a subtitle, it would be, "We didn't do this because it was sensible. We didn't do it because it was financially feasible. We did it because we could." So let's explore what happens when watchmaking stops asking for permission. In JLC's own framing, Hybris Mechanica is reserved for Maison's great complications or grand complications. Each model is built around a technical flex, so specific it feels like a manifesto. And the funny thing is, in a world where most brands use complicated the way restaurants today use artisan, Hybris Mechanica is one of the few labels that still means clear the bench, call the specialists, and give it yours. The book starts with history and homage. Homage to Anton LeCoultre. This chapter grounds the entire book emotionally. When Anton LeCoultre, whose name I'm most probably pronouncing very wrong, he is not remembered here as a logo or as a founder's portrait, but as a mindset. Precision, curiosity, obsession with improvement, this is how they remember Anton LeCoultre. This chapter reminds us that Hybris Mechanica isn't a rebellion against tradition. It is rebellion on behalf of tradition. Everything that follows is framed as a continuation of a very old question. How far can mechanical time be pushed by human hands? Next, the chapters are divided interchangeably into one craft and one grand complication watch. In the first category, the book covers designers of time, reframing watchmaking as a question-driven discipline. What if a tourbillon moved differently? What if sound became architecture? What if a case wasn't just a container but a system? Hybris Mechanica begins with what if, not how much. That's the difference between engineering and invention. Then it zooms in on something almost invisible, the levers. The book treats them not as components, but as storytellers. One of the most honest chapters in this book is 8 professions for one case. Here, the illusion of a single watchmaker collapses. The book lists engineers, case makers, finishers, decorators, assemblers, testers, prototypers, or regulators, and the whole ecosystem that it takes to build watches at this level. Hybris Mechanica is revealed as a collective act of expertise. These chapters of the book reveal the emotional part of the Hybris Mechanica line. This is the mechanical happiness which is irrational, visual, and emotional. The book openly states that these watches are not commercially rational. They exist because someone cared enough to make them exist. That passion, not branding. Hybris Mechanica depends on people who are comfortable being invisible. All this complexity still ends in human hands. A watch this complicated still needs intimacy, and this side of the book reframes watchmaking not as a job, but as a vocation. It stops being about watches and becomes about what survives, what endures, and what is left behind. Then there is the other side of the book, the technical excellence. That is explained through watches in the line. Bear in mind that Jaeger-LeCoultre has continued the tradition of building more complicated watches and flexing their "we did it because we could." Since this book was published, they have developed other calibers and other models. But we'll stick to the watches that are covered in this book because, after all, here we are talking about the Hybris Mechanica book, not the program or the line Hybris Mechanica itself. So firstly, the book steps back to 1895, reminding us that the grand complication is not a modern invention. Pocket watches from LeCoultre and C already carried multiple complications, extreme finishing, and a confidence that complexity itself was a form of beauty. This chapter quietly makes a key argument. Hybris Mechanica is not excess, it's heritage returning in modern form. The Gyrotourbillon 1 is described not as a mechanical feat, but as an event. Multi-axis motion, constant visual change, a mechanism that refuses stillness. Here, watchmaking crosses into choreography, if you may. There's no longer reading time, you're watching gravity being negotiated. Then comes Master Compressor Extreme Lab, the first lubricant-free watch. A tonal shift, and an important one. Hybris Mechanica isn't only poetic, it's experimental. And this chapter documents the Extreme Lab, a watch that questioned one of watchmaking's oldest assumptions, lubrication. So this one has no oil, it has new materials, it's a new thinking. This is Hybris Mechanica as laboratory, not as theater. Then architectures enters the story. Reverso grand complication a triptych, 3 dials, 3 identities, 1 movement. This triptych isn't just complicated, it's conceptual. The book framed it as a proof that Reverso is not a constraint, but a platform. Returning to motion, but now refined, we entered into the Reverso Gyrotourbillon 2. This chapter shows evolution. Thinner, more elegant, more integrated. Hybris Mechanica is not static bravado. It learns and it improves itself. For Hybris Mechanica, sound becomes the protagonist. Hybris Mechanica a grande sonnerie. Chiming is not a complication. It is music in itself. Tone, resonance, silence between notes. Time doesn't tick here, it sings. In Master Grand Tradition, Grand Complication, the book openly declares a summit. Multiple high complications unified into one watch, not as a list, but as a composition. This chapter reads like a quiet, this is what we know how to do. In Reverso Répétition minutes à rideau, which is French for I don't know how to pronounce it, here the innovation returns, but now through design. The curtain, the reveal, the drama. Okay, this is one that is pure theater. The Reverso Répétition minutes à rideau literally has a sliding curtain that you move to reveal or conceal part of the dial like a treasure. And when the curtain closes, the minute repeater performance begins. It's the kind of watch that makes you laugh because it's so unnecessary, but then makes you quiet because it is so perfectly executed. And here's the insider note. Hybris Mechanica is JLC, reminding everyone that watchmaking isn't only engineering. It is staging, it is choreography, it's a performance at where the music is literal. In Duometer Spherotourbillon, the tourbillon evolves again. Here, the book presents complication as exploration. Not better, not more, just further. And finally, we have the Atmos, the infinity clock. In this book, we meet Atmos mysterious and get introduced to motion without mechanism. The Atmos clock closes the loop from wrist to room to air itself. Hybris Mechanica is positioned as a message to the future. This is how far we went, and JLC continues to go even further. So a quick note about watches and politics. Hybris Mechanica is also a quiet statement about institutional capability. A watch like the ones in the Hybris Mechanica line doesn't just show mastery, it signals that the Maison can mobilize teams, labs, and years of R&D to create a single object that exists almost outside normal market logic. That's the power as capacity politics, the ability to do the unnecessary at the highest levels. Hybris Mechanica is JLC writing in the purest language of haute horology. If it chimes, it must be beautiful. If it's complicated, it must still be wearable. If it's clever, it must also be poetic. That combination, engineering discipline plus theatrical soul, is what makes these watches feel alive. So, if Hybris Mechanica is a book, it's a book about the art of doing the impossible tastefully. And now I want to hear from you. Which Hybris Mechanica chapter is your weakness? Sound, astronomy, tourbillons, or pure Reverso theatrics? If you could own one of these, would you pick the theater or the gravity? Drop me a comment and let me know. Send me a message and tell me the next rare title to chase. This is Watches and Politics, and I can't wait to see you in the next chapter.